And now we take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. President Bola Tinubu has forwarded the names of 32 ambassadorial nominees to the Senate for confirmation. According to a statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, on Saturday, the nominees include 17 non-career ambassadors and 15 career ambassadors who will be posted to countries and international organizations critical to Nigeria's foreign relations. However, the African Democratic Congress, ADC, has criticized Tinubu's latest ambassadorial appointments, describing the list as a settlement list of political IOUs. The party took particular exception to the nomination of Professor Mahmood Yakubu, the immediate past chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, saying his appointment, coming only 2 years after supervising the election that brought President Tinubu into office, would lend credence to the widespread allegation that the former INEC chief might not have been a neutral umpire in the 2023 election and could further undermine the credibility of INEC. In a statement signed by Malam Bolaji Abdullahi, National Publicity Secretary of the ADC, the party said at a time when INEC was still mired in a major credibility crisis, Yakubu's nomination for an ambassadorial position sent a dangerous message. In a related development, Human Rights Writers Association, HURIWA, has described as unfortunate and disgraceful the list of ambassadorial nominees recently sent to the National Assembly. The rights group said the duo of Femi Fani-Kayode and especially Mr. Reno Omokri were particularly compensated for always pouring insults on Peter Obi and for spreading total falsehoods or half-truths to attempt to undermine the integrity and credibility of Peter Obi. HURIWA singled out Mr. Reno Omokri, a man who was critical of the then presidential candidate Bola Tinubu, whom he called unprintable names, but capitulated when it was alleged that he was heavily financially induced to become his full-time praise singer and propagandist. Moving on to security news this morning, the Kogi State government has confirmed the abduction of several worshippers in Ejiba, a community in Yagba West local government area of the state. Arise News gathered that suspected bandits in large numbers attacked the newly established Cherubim and Seraphim Church and whisked away an unconfirmed number of worshippers. Sources revealed that the attackers abducted the church leader, his wife, and several other congregants and took them into a nearby bush. Confirming the incidents, the Kogi State Commissioner for Information and Communication, Kingsley Fonwo, said in a statement on Sunday that a combined security network comprising conventional security agencies and local security outfits has commenced efforts to rescue the abducted worshippers. Fonwo noted that the government is yet to receive an official report on the exact number of persons kidnapped. He added that authorities in Yagba West local government are working closely with security operatives to ensure the safe return of all victims. Meanwhile, worshippers in the Kontagora Catholic Diocese of Niger State have called on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to act swiftly and ensure the safe return of the abducted students and teachers of St. Mary's Catholic School in Papiri, Agwara local government area of the state. One of the worshippers, a retired teacher, Madam Cecilia Audi, at the Sunday Mass gathering, called on President Tinubu to act fast like he did with the abducted schoolgirls in Kebbi State. Another parent and worshipper, Tina Okeke, who is also the Provincial Catholic Women President, and Mrs. Elizabeth Oti, charged women in the state and Nigeria at large to join in the prayers for the urgent release of those in captivity. Still on insecurity, troops of Operation Mesa under the 3 Brigade of the Nigerian Army, Kano, have successfully rescued 7 kidnapped victims during a late-night operation in Sanyanwa local government area of the state. The rescue operation, according to the Assistant Director, Army Public Relations, Captain Babatunde Zubairu, was launched following a distress call from residents of Yankamaye, Sikingari, who reported bandit activity in the community. Zubairu disclosed that the attackers had earlier killed a 60-year-old woman before the troops arrived. He disclosed that after the initial contact, soldiers pursued the armed men along their withdrawal route towards Rimaye and engaged them with what he described as a high volume of fire, forcing them to abandon their captives. However, 4 abducted victims remain unaccounted for. Moving on to other stories, the Federation account received a significant boost in the first 3 quarters of this year, with the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee, FAC, reporting that a total of 2.359 trillion naira in outstanding revenue arrears was reconciled and paid to the federal government and subnational governments between January and September. The committee's detailed reports for November 2025, seen by this day, showed that the inflow sourced from crude sales, royalty arrears, domestic gas payments, and other under-remitted revenues helped moderate pressure on monthly allocations amid continuing fiscal strain on the 3 tiers of government. According to the FAC subcommittee, 370.43 billion naira was recovered and paid in September alone. This amount included $52.95 million in crude-related arrears remitted at an exchange rate of 1,474 naira to the dollar, along with royalty and domestic gas components from both Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, and Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC. Specifically, the September inflow pushed the cumulative reconciliation total for the first 9 months of the year to 2,359,628,451,600.61. That's 2 trillion, I beg your pardon, the highest in recent FAC reconciliation cycles. Now, today, the World Health Organization is joining partners and communities around the globe to commemorate World AIDS Day 2025 under the theme, Overcoming Disruption, Transforming the AIDS Response. An estimated 40.8 million people are living with HIV around the world, 610,000 of whom live in the Eastern Mediterranean region, where the number of annually estimated new infections has almost doubled in less than a decade, rising from 37,000 in 2016 to 72,000 in 2024. Yet, fewer than 4 in 10 know their status, and less than a third are receiving treatment in the region. Across Nigeria, clinics are reporting disruptions, shortages, and delays in human immunodeficiency virus, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, HIV/AIDS testing kits, pre-exposure prophylaxis, condoms, community outreach programs, and antiretroviral therapy refills. The interruptions began early this year after the Donald Trump administration halted foreign aid, affecting funds traditionally channeled through the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. And finally, in our news today, Nigeria's leading financial technology company, Opay, says it remains committed to bringing financial inclusion to all citizens, irrespective of class and creed. It also vowed to keep providing fast, reliable, and secure banking services. Executive Director Opay Nigeria, Elizabeth Wang, gave this assurance in Ibadan during the opening of its Ibadan office. She also assured Opay customers that their funds are safe and that the company will keep offering quality service. Arise News correspondent Olutayo Famous Cole, who was at the launch, has more details in this report.
In Nigeria, millions remain unbanked, missing out on opportunities for growth and prosperity. Limited access to financial services also hinders economic progress, perpetuating poverty and inequality. However, Opay, a leading financial technology company, offers a wide range of payment services, including money transfer, bill payments, airtime and data purchase, card service, and merchant payments. The company hopes to expand its customer base and bring financial satisfaction closer to all Nigerians through the launch of its Ibadan office.
The key thing is why we established the office, because like I said, our value is that always customer first. And then based on the customer, they would like to get the best customer service, and some of them prefer to online, some of them prefer to offline. So that's why we build office and then also renovate our office as well. Actually, before, currently right now for Opay, we have 28 office in 25 states already, but this is the first one in Ibadan we renovate. Before, we also have an office here, but not this standard. So right now, we have come up with our Opay standard office here, and then Ibadan is the first one we complete the renovation and launch here. And then this year and next year, all our office will be renovated to this standard. Yeah.
The company also says its core values include customer satisfaction, fast, reliable and secure banking, while also ensuring that customer funds are safe and utilized to improve their well-being.
At Opay, like we always emphasize, we are very passionate about our customers, and our desire is to make them happy always, to listen to them, and this is just a way of coming closer to them. And we're happy to launch this edifice here at Ibadan to come close to the grassroots, come close to our customers who we are very passionate about. So let them just expect more partnership with us, more collaboration, more service delivery, and of course improved services. And when people say Opay might crash, I mean, this is just a further assurance, if I may use that word, to say that Opay is here to stay. I mean, you don't invest in something like this when you are when there are plans to leave or plans to crash. So I think those are just imaginations, and Opay is indeed very much here to stay, to continue to make financial inclusion available to every Nigerian.
Opay, licensed by the Central Bank of Nigeria and insured by the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, is ensuring secure and reliable transactions. With over 20 million daily active users of its payment platform, Opay is one of the top fintech apps globally, committed to providing innovative financial solutions for all individuals. Oluta Famous Call. Arise News, Ibadan.
Well, that's the news we can take this morning. A lot of stories this morning. Dr. Bati, welcome to, I was saying earlier today, a brand new day, brand new week, brand new month. I'm here on the morning show. But Vimbai, of course, a lot of stories that dominated this morning's news is on insecurity. Unfortunate news coming in from Kogi State, Yagba, and then one good story around in Kano State, and then, of course, the ambassadorial list, which has been trending since it was released, and the FAC allocation remitted, and Opay, congratulations to them in Ibadan. Your take on these stories?
Right. So much to talk about, so little time. So just touch on a few things very briefly. I'll begin with the security situation, where over the weekend we saw a number of incidents transpiring, including a bride and her bridesmaids who were kidnapped in Sokoto. So we continue to see these rising incidents of, banditry, some terrorist related. But, just to balance it, I saw a video from the Nigerian Air Force over the weekend as well, where they were able to decimate some terrorist strongholds, one in Katsina, that was Operation Fansam Yama, and then one in Chibok, Operation Hadinkai. But when you look at the videos that they released, you can see that where the terrorists are positioned or where the bandits are positioned, there's quite a number of cattle around them as well. So it seems that maybe if you follow the cattle for now, you may be able to track and trace where these people are hiding. And then, of course, the other thing we do know is that there's a wide use of motorcycles. So it's potentially time for some governors in the Northwest and in the North Central to start considering placing restrictions on the movement of motorcycles, maybe between certain times of the day and so forth, so that it doesn't also hinder economic activity. But I think these are low-hanging fruits that can easily be implemented so that we can start to contain the sudden upsurge in incidents of insecurity. Now, we quickly go to the FAC, stories concerning FAC. And again, we see more and more money coming, but two details struck me. The first being that there were wide variances between FAC allocation, the total FAC figure per per month. You have some months that have up to 300 billion, some months come down to 100 billion. So these discrepancies are concerning, because it means that we are not yet, we haven't unified our revenue collection just yet. They say the bulk is still coming from FIRS, but however, when you look at those huge differences, clearly it means that we are not yet in a position where we have been able to harmonize and fully balance our accounts. Also concerns around that $42 billion that is said to still be outstanding and unremitted from NNPC. NNPC responded to that investigation from Periscope Consulting, and they said that they have no such record in their books. So that is still an issue that is still being ironed out. Now to the ambassadorial list, which I think is probably the talk of the town at the moment. Several things stuck out, and I'm sure we will all have different views and different highlights. But for me, the first thing that struck me was the issue around the ratio between career ambassadors and non-career ambassadors. Now, generally with diplomatic practice, there is best practice, which says that your career ambassadors should make up 70% of your appointments, while 30% can go to non-career ambassadors. This is a big debate, nevertheless, when it comes to international policy. But the argument is that those who analyze diplomacy say that they understand that all nations and all presidents will want to appoint some people who represent their political interests. And that's why there's room made for that 30%. But when you have a situation where 15 nominees are career ambassadors, 17 nominees are non-career ambassadors, that's plus, if we add 3 of the prior nominations we saw last week, we have this anomaly where you have more non-career nominations than you have career nominations. So this means that you have decided to create a foreign policy that is driven by people who have no experience with diplomacy or international relations or foreign policy itself. So this is of huge concern. Now, as I round up, of course, several names were also of interest. I'll stick to that of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, and I want to quote Dr. Muhammad Santuraki, who said that a referee cannot finish a match today and then join the winning team tomorrow. What precedent are we actually setting if we now say that INEC has become a pipeline for political careers, has become a pipeline for those who have political ambitions, especially without a cool-off period? Now, we know that the Constitution does not have any reference. It doesn't address there being a cool-off period between an INEC chair stepping down or resigning and him taking on new appointments. But this is something that we need to look at, because the optics are absolutely terrible.
All right, Dr. Bati.
Today is World AIDS Day, so designated by the United Nations, and I think it's appropriate to start with that. And the theme that the United Nations has chosen for this year is overcoming disruptions and transforming the HIV response. What are these disruptions? These disruptions will consist of fragmented approaches, poor funding, geopolitical politics, stigma, discrimination, and then the need for countries to ramp up responses, because the 1010 targets defined by the UN AIDS, as it is called, most of the countries on that list, they cannot meet that target by 2026. So the world faces a challenge, a serious challenge with regard to overcoming the HIV/AIDS crisis. Now, many countries have tried to formulate their own responses. Developing nations that are most affected have realized the fact that the US removing funding under PEPFAR, the presidential funding arrangement by the US, in January, although President Trump later restored and put out HIV funding, had affected many countries. In Nigeria, for example, over a period of 18 years, the United States has spent about over $18 billion providing support for Nigeria. But all of that now, with the new management structure, is a bit uncertain. And that is why, one of the emphasis here is that the affected countries, developing countries, will have to look inwards, to look at local funding, to look at sustainable approaches to protect their citizens. In Nigeria, we have a seroprevalence, HIV seroprevalence of between 1.9 million and 2 million. And in terms of distribution, the South-South is the most affected, with about 3.01%. The Northwest has the lowest rate with 0.1% seroprevalence. In Lagos, Lagos has 1.1% seroprevalence, with about 160,000 persons in Lagos living with HIV/AIDS. However, Lagos State is said to stand tall out of all the 36 states of the Federation because it has the most coordinated response system. At the community level, a lot has been achieved, but there is still a lot of challenge in terms of facilities, in terms of access, in terms also of the behavior of individuals. Yesterday, I had the privilege to have interviewed Professor Alero Roberts, Professor of Community and Family Health at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, who pointed out that for individuals, and I'm singling out only that aspect of our contribution because it has to do with individuals. And what is there is also a day to promote awareness. She talked about abstinence. She talked about behavior. In terms of abstinence, she was saying, just stick to one partner. Don't go about risking your life. Behavior, that is also related. And then the third, she talked about condom. A report by UNH indicates that in Nigeria, or particularly Lagos, condom use has declined by about 50%. So a lot of people who are living in a risky manner, the message to them is that, look, they have to follow this ABC as defined by, Professor Roberts. That's part of it that I think I can highlight this morning. But the important thing, of course, is that Nigeria has what they call the NACA, National AIDS Control Agency. Now, more funding has to be put into that agency in the face of a crisis and underfunding of the health sector in Nigeria generally. But Lagos State says, turn around the theme, says overcoming destruction, sustaining the HIV response. Now, other states should follow the example of Lagos State and seek to sustain or to even, deepen their response systems, because AIDS is real. That's that about that. As for fiscal allocations that they said, FAC allocations that they said they've been able to save from review and editing, no, you can congratulate government and say, yes, you've been able to save over 3 trillion. But the question to ask is as follows. 1, where did that money disappear to? Initially, did it disappear into the Accountant General's office? Did it disappear into the Auditor General's office? Did it disappear into state coffers? Where did it disappear to? Now that you are rescuing the money from here and here, from reconciliation, and now you have been able to save over 2-3 trillion. Now, the question to also ask is that who are those people responsible for this reconciliation that is being done? Those persons should be named, they should be identified. If they are government agencies, they should be identified. And a system should be put in place whereby federal allocations do not just disappear into the Bermuda Triangle in the financial system of Nigeria. And then beyond that, the question to now ask is that this money is going to go into the federation account. Now, how do we ensure that the money that has been rescued will be used for the purpose of development? Well, we run a federal system, so the federal government may not be able to say, well, come and report to us how you are spending your money. But there's need for, if there is authority, there must be need for transparency and also accountability. 3 words: authority, transparency, and accountability. All these are our governors. How have they been spending the people's money? They will collect the money. You go to their states, the hospitals are not working, the roads, even state roads, are bad, the schools are in very bad condition, the students are learning in very horrible conditions. Now, and yet these are the same states that are setting up airlines and are building airports, and the governors are living in a very ostentatious, conspicuous manner. these are the challenges that we need to address, apart from just celebrating that, oh, this and that, more money is going to the states. No, what are they going to do with that money? There must be a system in place to be more vigilant. Third, let me just take one more topic. You have so many. Ambassadorial posters.
Ambassadorial.
Yeah, no, let me just leave security. That's straightforward. Anybody can discuss that. Let me talk about ambassadorial posting. Now, issues beyond the concerns that have been expressed by the public. One, about people protesting about the character, the background, the job for the boys orientation of that list. Some other parties, the opposition parties in particular, saying that the list should be withdrawn. I will just say a number of things. The first is that it took President Bola Ahmed Tinubu 2 years, 2 months to come up with this list. And I think that people are right to have raised the point that they expected something more rigorous in a country of over 200 million people. It cannot be the wife of this, the daughter of that, some other persons who have been lobbying to be given appointments. It shouldn't have been job for the boys. Number two is that Nigeria has 109 missions worldwide. Now, so far, we have appointed 35 ambassadors. Now, out of those 35 ambassadors, the process is not yet concluded. We still have about 74, right?
Yeah.
About 74 missions that have not been filled. What I would have expected, because the background to the recall of the ambassadors, part of that background was that Nigeria could no longer fund its missions. You have officers on diplomatic missions, they will put them in a 3-bedroom flat. They will be sharing 3-bedroom flat. It got to a point that many of them could no longer travel with their families. Now, the first step will have been the rationalization of the embassies. What are we doing with 109 missions if we cannot maintain them? You could have, you could rationalize these things. We don't need to have ambassadors in every West African country. The man you send to Togo can cover Cameroon, can cover another country. Why must we have an ambassador in the Court of James, of St. James, have also in Northern Ireland, and also have somebody in Wales? One person can cover the whole of that area. One person can cover blocks of Europe, to save costs and to make sure that these ambassadors are not going to go there and then they will be asking for money all the time. The third point, when time comes, there will be more detailed analysis, but I think these fundamental, foundational issues are important, is that these ambassadors that have been appointed, it's not automatic. Yeah. We may end up not even having ambassadors until towards the end of 2026, because first, the screening by the Senate, then the application for the agreement with the host country. The host country has to accept you. So people are concerned about character. The host countries too will do their investigations. And many of these people may be rejected. In fact, we may not even send any of these 35 persons out, or some of them may not even get there until we are in election time. However, if President Tinubu wins second term, of course, maybe he will retain some of them. But the delay is also a source of concern. So we just hope that the Senate will do due diligence. But if precedence is anything to follow, and with the Senate, the other day, First Lady invited them to dinner, and they said they were excited to go and have dinner with their mommy. So if mommy's husband says, this is my list for ambassadors, I do not think that this Senate will disobey mommy's husband.
All right. Okay, Dr. Masi, serious business, but you just have a way of at least bringing out the light side so we can laugh. Oh, wow, mommy's husband, Mr. President. All right. Okay, all right. Very important. And I think from the last point that Dr. Bati made around, the hope of the people who have criticized this list, heavily criticized this list, from the opposition parties to civil society groups to thought leaders to people who have Nigeria's interest at heart, criticizing some of the names on this list, the hope of these people would be that, okay, there are stages to be passed. If the executive didn't get it quite right, at least the legislature will come in as one of the arms of government to fix things. But what we've seen in recent times is that it's a rubber stamp assembly. This 10th assembly itself has been under a lot of criticism. So it beggars belief what would change. And I would want to put a challenge to the Senate this morning that based on some of the criticisms on the personalities, characters, experiences of these people on this list, would they be bold enough to actually do a rigorous, proper, in-depth screening and take some people out who are not qualified to do this. Now, you can say that, experience, competence can be taught. You can learn these things, whether on the job or just before you take on the role. However, how can you teach character in old age? How can you teach some certain qualities that are expected of a diplomat at this stage? Let me take a few quotes. I read a few literature around, diplomacy, I studied international relations myself. So you understand the character of the people that you're sending as your chief diplomat representing the president and the country in missions abroad. Has already been established to have 109 missions abroad, and Nigeria enjoys quite a cordial relationship with many of these missions. One of the reasons why the ambassadorial list even came again to the fore, despite calls over the last 2 years for the president to make appointments, is the fact that we didn't have a formal president's presence representing the president in these missions. Following the United States designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern, which a number of people opined that if we had had an ambassador, he would have been able to diplomatically dialogue with the country to perhaps not get us to this level or not make the situation as bad, represent the interests of Nigeria diplomatically. And so this call for a list for ambassadorial posting was made. And then the president rose to the occasion, and after 2 years, released a list. A number of people have called this list underwhelming. Would any of these people on this list, aside from the career ambassadors, be able to engage diplomatically in dialogue, these officials, to present Nigeria in a light that is favorable? Do they have the capacity to do it? Do they have the skill? Do they have the expertise, the technique to engage? Winston Churchill had said, now, diplomacy is the art of telling people to go to hell in such a way that they ask for directions. And then Isaac Newton said, tact is the knack of making a point without making an enemy. I say this because when you see the positions of these men in history, you would find out some of the names on this list do not fit that bill. Many of them have actually done the opposite, made a lot of enemies because of their lack of tact and in pursuance of their support of a political figure. We also talk about qualities like integrity. Many of them have been white today, black tomorrow. In fact, the old videos, embarrassingly so, have been coming out on some of these personalities based on what they said in the past. And these are the men and women who we have called on to represent Nigeria as chief diplomat of the nation, speak in behalf of the president, made to be believable to our foreign counterpart. These are the best people that the president could bring out. Now, another thing I would look at as well, based on recent decisions, appointments, directives of the president in recent times, is perhaps the president needs to take a closer look at his advisors, because the people who are advising him are not telling him the truth. We have had a lot of, direction, flip-flops, announce, we take it back. Look at the pardon list, for instance. And who are the people who sit in a committee who are advising the president in such a way that he makes such big mistakes and then will come down the road to say, okay, based on public sentiment and public response, we are withdrawing the list and resubmitting. It embarrasses the government. And so maybe the enemy of the president himself is within his own camp and might need to review the people who are with him. It goes on to insecurity as well, because sometimes the reason why the government does not act is because the people around them are insulating them from the truth that is happening and minimizing what is actually on ground. And so maybe this morning, what the spotlight should be, who are the president's men? Who are the people advising him? Who are the people, who are the technocrats around him who are are giving him such bad advice. They call it Ahithophelic counsel, such that it is embarrassing to the government. He keeps making U-turns on certain appointments, and it looks like it's just a joke, and we don't have people who know what they are doing in and around the president. I'm hoping that again the president will review based on public opinion this list he has brought out, because again I mentioned that these are the chief diplomats, heads of mission for Nigeria across the 109 foreign missions. Only 35 have been appointed, but most of it look like a simple, if I call it call it what it is, simply a joke. Most of it.